Chapter 507 to 508. Somewhere in the dark. A teenager with unkempt short black hair, a tanto sheathed on his back, and a black cloak draped over his body, cautiously walked through the silent and dark ruins as he tried to recall what this place is but couldn't figure it out. He doesn't know where he is, and as far as he has observed this area after gaining consciousness, nothing except for the sound of his footsteps could be heard in these gloomy dark passages. After walking for who knows how long, but with no entrance, exit, end, or fork in his sight, the figure finally couldn't help it and sighed helplessly. Sigh. How did I even end up here? The last time I checked, I and Itachi were searching for the traces of Sword of Tatsuka and Yada Mirror. This figure is obviously none other than that of Uchiha Shursui, who along with Uchiha Itachi was at the Nakomata ruins, trying to find the location of Sword of Tatsuka and Yada Mirror as per Kuroto's instructions. He and Itachi had almost gotten close to finding the Sword of Tatsuka, but suddenly something unexpected happened, and Itachi was directly sucked inside the stone gourd, while he, who tried to rescue Itachi, fell into a bottomless hole and unexpectedly found himself in these centuries-old ruins after regaining consciousness. Initially, Shursui thought that perhaps these ruins are located beneath the Nakomata shrine he was previously at, so he tried to get out of here by bypassing the roof, but was unable to because there is simply no roof above his head. It's just pure darkness he sees above. Then Shursui thought about using a rough approach and tried breaking through the side walls by virtue of brute strength, but unexpectedly, the walls were so sturdy that even the drill sword of his Susanoo couldn't get past them. The fact that even his Susanoo couldn't nick the walls finally made Shursui realize that wherever he is, this place is not so ordinary, and getting out of here wouldn't be as easy as he assumed it would be. Of course, Shursui has also noticed faint traces of genjutsu in the surroundings, but since the genjutsu wasn't seriously affecting his perception, so he didn't care about it too deeply, or more like, even if he dispels the genjutsu, it would start to act again no matter how many times he dispels it. This strangeness obviously aroused Shursui's curiosity. A genjutsu that cannot be dispelled no matter how many times he tries, even with his Mangekyou Sharingan? It's interesting indeed. Although interested, Shursui, however, had to restrain his curiosity and focus on finding his way out of here, because he is worried about Itachi and the village. Therefore, Shursui again determined himself and started walking through the dark and gloomy passages with the intention of getting out of here as soon as he can. Step. At this time, there was a sudden noise behind him. Although Shursui didn't stop, he was vigilant. His black cloak fluttered, his hand slowly reached out for the tanto on his back, and his scarlet eyes searched for the source of the sound. Whoosh! A black shadow quickly passed by Shursui. Shursui's steps didn't stop at the slightest, but his eyes turned slightly. In the darkness, a pair of green eyes turned around and stared at Shursui. The two pairs of eyes, one green and one scarlet, stared at each other, and then the fluff on the body of the black shadow exploded, and it let out a low groan. Meow. Shursui frowned. A cat, and there was a tinge of surprise on his face, then the realization, wait. A cat. But how did this cat get in here? And if she can get in here, maybe she can also help me get out of this place? With this thought, Shursui crouched down, and after bringing his hand forward, he said, Come here, Kuriri. The cat, however, didn't seem to be pleased by Shursui's action. Not every cat is called Kuriri. The voice sounded raspy to the ears, and its tone clearly indicated that it is annoyed at Shursui. Shursui was a little stagnant and asked cautiously, Then is it Momo? Or maybe Kuro? Shursui's words seemed to have made the cat more annoyed, but she didn't care about it for now. Instead, she looked up and down at Shursui, especially at those pair of scarlet eyes with a unique four-edged shuriken pattern, and after a bit of thinking, she said, Follow me. However, this time her voice was quite sultry, which felt quite awkward. After all, the voice didn't come from the mouth of an adult human girl, but from that of a female black cat. Shursui was surprised, not at her voice but at what she said. He didn't expect that the cat would ask him to follow her, and asked curiously, Where do you want to take me? The cat said, Don't you want to get out of here? Shursui nodded. I do in fact. But before that, can you tell me where exactly am I? The cat thought a little, then answered, This is Nakomata domain, or you can say the land of Nakomata. Nakomata? Muttered Shursui in surprise, then asked again, As in the Nakomata, from the folklore? The black cat shook her head. I don't know how the human folklore defines us. We are Nakomata. Shursui was a little helpless and chose not to discuss that matter. Instead, he apologized. I apologize for trespassing in the domain of Nakomata. I ended up here accidentally. Please forgive my discourtesy. Can you please show me the way out of here? The cat didn't answer. She just turned around and started walking forward and said, I am going to lead you to meet our leader, Kuroka-sama. She sensed your presence in this domain, and she is the only one who can lead you out of the Nekasha domain. If you convince her, then you can go out of here. Shui seemed hesitant to follow the black cat. After all, he didn't know much about the Nikomadas and this place, so he is not sure what to do. The black cat was obviously not so patient. Noting that the kid was still standing in a daze, she said, "What are you waiting for? Hurry up. I don't have all day." Shui sighed and finally decided to follow the cat. "Anyway, what's the worst that can happen?" "It's Fuafoa," said the black cat just as the two started to walk. "What?" asked Shui in confusion. "Fuafoa, my name you wanted to know, right?" "So, my name is Fuafoa," repeated the black cat. "Oh. Then Fuafoa-san can call me Shui," said Shui with a friendly smile. Fuafoa nodded lightly and continued to lead the way. The sound of footsteps gently echoed in the silent passage as one cat and one human walked through the passage. As he followed the Fuafoa, Shui had a surprised look on his face. Earlier, no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't find his way out of there. No matter how much he walked, all the passages seemed similar with no clear clue that would lead him out with no clear direction. But under the Fuafoa-san's guidance, the scenery changed. Now all the passages seemed subtly different, and this surprised him, made him wonder why is this the case? Fuafoa seemed to have noticed Shusui's doubts, and answered, "It's because the presence of natural energy in the surroundings is very dense, so it was hindering your perception. Only those who have mastered Senjutsu can find a clear path out of here. Those who have not mastered Senjutsu will keep wandering in this never-ending maze and die out of hunger, unless they are guided by someone who has mastered Senjutsu." Shui noted the term natural energy and Senjutsu said by Fuafoa, then realized that it is indeed possible. He is not ignorant of this energy system that is more primitive and somewhat superior compared to chakra that shinobi uses. After all, Jiraiya uses Senjutsu, which is a combination of natural energy and chakra. But at the same time, a doubt appeared in his mind. Does that mean I won't be able to find my way out of here if I cannot sense natural energy or haven't mastered Senjutsu? The answer to this question is very important to him because Shui has neither and method of sensing natural energy, nor has he mastered Senjutsu. Shui knows just how difficult mastering Senjutsu truly is. To his knowledge, there have only been 2 shinobi who have mastered Senjutsu since Konoha was established. The first was naturally Shodame Hokage, Senju Hashirama, who calmed the troubled times of the Warring States era, while the second is one of the legendary Sannin, Jiraiya. Of course, Shui also knows that Kuroto-san seems to be trying to master Senjutsu, but whether he has mastered it or not is unknown to Shui. Apart from these 3, Shui hasn't heard that anyone else has been able to master Senjutsu, therefore, he is worried, because if there is no other way, then how will he get out of here? Fuafoa didn't give any answer to Shusui's question, and continued to walk forward. As far as she knows, as long as Kuroka-sama wants, she can naturally send this child out of Nikomata domain, but Fuafoa doesn't know what plans Kuroka-sama has for this child, therefore, she chose to remain silent. And Shui was really troubled by the Fuafoa's silence at the same time. He also became nervous. Fuafoa seemed to be enjoying Shusui's nervous expression. It's as if she has found a new toy. At the same time, there are other thoughts. Despite possessing such strength, the boy is quite naive and innocent perhaps. This is why Kuroka-sama has taken an interest in him. As Fuafoa and Shui walked deeper and deeper, Shui got to see several shadows. Some constantly passed by the two, and casually looked at Shui with a unique glint in their eyes, while others were looking at the two from far away, watching with cold eyes. But one thing was common in all of them. None of them dared to approach closer, yet they all kept a respectful posture towards Fuafoa. These are all cat summons. Each of them has the strength to match the strength of a low-level genin, and their tentatively strongest person is equivalent to a low-level chunin according to human shinobi standards. But Shui isn't much interested in these cats. He already has crows as his signature summons, so adding genin or chunin-level cats in his summons wouldn't be any benefit for him. If he has to sign another summon contract, then it has to be with some powerful summon animal, like that of Gamabunta that Jiraiya uses, or maybe Manda used by Orochimaru, or maybe Aoda or Okinabuta that Kuroto has signed a summoning contract with, else why would he bother taking someone who would only drag him down? So, without paying much attention to these cats, Shui continued to follow Fuafoa. Fuafoa observed Shui, and noting that he didn't pay much attention to these cats, she nodded in appreciation. Fuafoa doesn't really like these cats. If it is up to her, she would rather shoo them all away so that they don't litter around the entrance of the shrine. A while later, the two arrived at a narrow, dark passage. Shui looked at the passage, but he couldn't see anything, like anything. It was pure black with no light passing by, like a black hole. Meow. At the entrance of the narrow passage, Fuafoa stopped and glanced backward. After making sure that Shui was obediently following behind her, she spoke softly, "Follow me, and make sure to keep up." Then after a pause, she spoke in a deep tone of voice. "If you are unable to keep up, or get distracted midway, then you will be lost forever." Shui gulped nervously, but after taking a deep breath he nodded and readied himself. If it is about keeping up, then Shui is quite confident in his speed. After all, he is the second fastest shinobi in Konoha, so he should be able to keep up with Fuwa, right? As for the matter of getting distracted, his training as a shinobi should help him keep focused. Seeing that Shui nodded, Fuwa said nothing more and jumped into the darkness. Whoosh! Nekomatas have lived in this mysterious domain for generations, and only with their unique sensory skills and mastery over their unique senjutsu can one traverse through these pathways, but Shui neither has any understanding of senjutsu, nor does he possess their unique sensory skills. Therefore, he can only rely on Fuwa. As such, he immediately picked speed, and followed after Fuwa. Whoosh! The two figures quickly dispersed into darkness, one after another. In this darkness, Shui wasn't able to see anything, nor was he able to sense anything. It felt as if there is nothing present here. At the same time, he also seems to be able to sense everything, as if everything is present here. This state felt unrealistic, at the same time panicked him. Because this state was not a good thing, because in this state, either his brain will receive no information and cease to function, or his brain will not be able to process too much information at once and will be lost. Whichever thing may happen, there will only be one result. He will lose track of Fuwa, and as she said earlier, he will forever be lost. Calm down, breath in, breathe out, breath in, breathe out, breath in, breathe out, breath in, breathe out. Now focus. After muttering this sentence to himself many times, Shui calmed his mind and released all his thoughts. Then his attention was finally on Fuwa, who was already about 100 meters ahead of him, while he was standing still at the entrance. Realizing that he has only taken a single step, Shui gulped in horror because, to him, it felt that he had been in this place for hours. This place is really creepy. After muttering to himself, Shui hurried forward and closely followed Fuwa. He is able to keep himself sane here without my help? He does have potential, at least, thought Fuwa in surprise. Then she increased her speed in order to test Shui's limits. Shui did not disappoint her and kept following behind her closely, and soon both of them were running at full speed. Of course, this was very difficult for Shui. He has to resist the chaos of this darkness. At the same time, he has to keep track of Fuwa's presence and make sure to keep up with her. Doing all three tasks at the same time puts a little pressure on him. However, he has to get out of here, and for that, he just gritted his teeth and persevered. After a while of running at their full speed, which almost lasted an eternity for Shui, the scene suddenly changed. The darkness disappeared, and light emerged. Coming out of the darkness, Shui immediately collapsed on the ground in a cold sweat and took deep breaths. That was too scary. Fuwa said nothing and calmly waited for Shui to recover. If she is honest, then she is really surprised that Shui managed to preserve until the very end. So, her opinion of him has increased, and she is willing to wait for him to recover. After a while, when Shui recovered, he looked at the scenery in front of him. They seemed to be present at the entrance of a shrine, and behind him is a large torii gate. The design and appearance of the shrine somewhat reminded him of the ruined shrine he and Itachi were present at before, as they were searching for the traces of Sword of Tatsuka and Yada Mirror. Is it the same shrine? Or is it different? Just as Shui thought, his attention turned towards people, or rather, more cats, who were guarding the shrine. These cat guards also sensed the arrival of Shui, but noting that he is accompanied by Fuwa, each of them bowed respectfully and gave way for them to enter the shrine. While walking towards the shrine, Shui noted something. The cats here are different from the ones outside. Fuwa seems to have noticed Shui's doubts and said, "The ones you saw outside were just some cats who can fight and can be used as cannon fodder class summons, but the ones here in Nekomata, we may look similar, but we are very different." For an analogy, the difference between a cat and a Nekomata is similar to a monkey and a human in a human's case. One basic physical characteristic you can use to differentiate between a cat and a Nekomata is by noting the number of tails they have. A cat has only one tail, while a Nekomata generally has two tails. Hearing Fuwa's words, Shui looked at the cat guards and noted that all these cat guards have two tails, as she said, which means they are all Nekomata. Then he also looked at the Fuwa's and she too has two tails, which means she is also a Nekomata. Understanding this, Shui asked, "Fuwa-san, you mentioned that a Nekomata generally has two tails. Does that mean a Nekomata can also have more than two tails?" Fuwa nodded. It's rare, but it happens. Well, anyway, come along, we are almost there. Shui nodded, then asked again. So, is this Kuroto-sama also a Nekomata? Fuwa nodded and patiently explained, correct, but not accurate. Kuroto-sama is a nekashu, a special variant, among Nekomata. Nekasha is the strongest type of Nekomata. Currently, there are only two nekashu in existence. The first is, naturally, Kuroto-sama, while the other one is Kuroto-sama's younger sister, Shiron-sama. Shisui nodded in understanding, then followed Fuwa into the shrine. After walking for a while, the two arrived outside a gate. The gate is very large, and Shursui noted that its height is at least 50 m. Therefore, he was wondering if this Kuroka-sama he is going to be meeting now is gigantic in size. And while Shursui was busy in his thoughts, Fuafoa gently knocked on the door. Knock knock. Soon, a playful womanly voice sounded from the other side of the gate. Fuafoa? Come in, Naya. Hearing the voice, Fuafoa gently pushed open the gate to open and walked in. Shursui followed her closely. The inside is a shrine hall, at the center of which is a large sacred seat. On the sacred seat lay a beautiful young woman on her stomach, dangling her legs back and forth. It seemed as if she is in a playful mood as she curiously observed Shursui, who is closely following Fuafoa. The woman has a voluptuous figure, long black hair with split bangs, and hazel gold eyes with cat-like pupils. A pair of black cat ears, and two black tails swayed from left to right. She is wearing a black kimono, a yellow obi, a set of golden beads, and an ornately detailed headband. Her kimono features a red interior, and it is open at her shoulder, giving viewers a clear view of her large pair of breasts. And contrary to what Shursui had expected, Kuroka-sama is not a giant creature, but rather a woman with the body size of a human. Of course, he didn't exclude the possibility that she might have used a transformation jutsu to take this form. After walking closer to the sacred seat, Fuafoa respectfully bowed. Kuroka-sama, just as you instructed, I have brought the kid. While observing Shursui with her hazel gold eyes, the nekashu named Kuroka nodded at Fuafoa. I see, Fuafoa. You have done good work. Naya. Fuafoa respectfully bowed, then stepped aside. All this while, Shursui was cautiously observing the nekashu named Kuroka. His instincts were telling him that this nekashu is terrifyingly strong. One wrong move, and it would result in his death. Therefore, Shursui made sure to not look at the places he shouldn't, and only focused on her face. He didn't mean to be disrespectful to her. There was a long silence in the hall. Neither the nekashu named Kuroka nor Shursui spoke anything. And after a while, when Shisui couldn't bear it any longer, he asked, May I refer to you as Kuroka-sama? Kuroka nodded lightly and prompted Shursui to continue. Shursui turned to look at Fuafoa, then turned back to face Kuroka and said, So, Fuafoa-sen briefed me about where I am. It seems to be a place called Nakomata Domain. I swear I wasn't trespassing. I just accidentally ended up here while I was on a mission. Kuroka nodded. I am aware, Naya. Shursui sighed. At least the other party isn't taking me as a trespasser. Then with a relieved smile, he said, and Fuafoa-sen also mentioned to me that only you, their leader, Kuroka-sama, can lead me out of here. Please forgive me for my rudeness, but I would like to go out of here and return to where I was before, as soon as I can due to, well, certain reasons. Kuroka nodded. Fuafoa did not lie to you, Naya. Leaving the Nakomata domain without my permission is impossible. However, if you wish to leave, then it is not a simple matter. Naya? Shursui nodded and asked, Then is there something that needs to be done for me to leave the Nakomata domain? Kuroka nodded and asked, Tell me something, Uchiha Shursui. Do you know what is natural energy? Shursui nodded. Well, I do know bits and pieces about natural energy. Kuroka nodded and said again, Well, if you know something about natural energy, then it makes things easier. To leave here, you need to be able to see the flow of natural energy. If you can see or sense the flow of natural energy, then you can pass through the gate that leads outside. But if you cannot see or sense the flow of natural energy, then you will never be able to leave this domain, as you will forever be lost in the darkness.